Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Marc Márquez admitted a heavy first lap touch with Alex Rins in the Mandalika Sprint, a moment that drew a long lap penalty, but said the punishment actually helped him ride his best laps of the weekend. The reigning champion accepted responsibility for the incident, apologized to Rins, served the penalty, and then mounted a steady comeback to finish inside the top 7. Dani Pedrosa weighed in on the Indonesian Sprint, offering a calm, experienced read of a chaotic day at Mandalika. The former Honda star praised Raúl Fernández's first sprint podium, applauded Marco Bezzecchi's consistency on the Aprilia, and expressed sympathy for Pecco Bagnaia's recurring woes. Crucially, Pedrosa declined to condemn the hotly debated contact between Marc Márquez and Alex Rins, describing the maneuver as hard racing rather than an offense deserving punishment. Pecco Bagnaia arrived at Mandalika fresh off a Motegi high, pole, sprint and Grand Prix wins, but instead found himself plunged back into the same loss of feeling that ruined large parts of his season. The Italian missed Q1, started 16th, and ended the sprint more than 12 seconds off the back of the pack, admitting to a level of frustration and bewilderment that bordered on despair. Davide Tardozzi admitted he was taken aback when VR46 director Uccio Salucci publicly said Pecco Bagnaia had tested Franco Morbidelli's GP24 at Misano, a disclosure that reopened the paddock debate about what exactly the Italian was riding at Motegi. Motorsport's story digs into the back and forth, and VR46's Pablo Nieto then offering a technical frame for those remarks. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. On the opening lap at turn 10, Marquez and Rins ran wide while contesting 7th. Marquez says he could not stop as the rear stepped out after running onto the dirty line and into another rider's slipstream. The contact sent Rins into the runoff and earned Marquez a long lap penalty, his first riding infraction of the season aside from an earlier warm-up lap procedure long lap. I already said sorry to Alex, but I could not control that lap on the first hard brake point. I jumped into the dirty part a bit, the rear started to slide. I was inside, I could not stop. The sequence underlines how tight margins and crowded braking zones can cascade into incidents, even for the rider dominating much of the season. Rather than wreck his weekend, Marquez says the long lap calmed him down. Serving the penalty dropped him to 13th, but it also removed the pressure to immediately attack, and permitted a measured comeback. He ran his strongest laps in the final third of the 13-lap sprint. He explained that after doing the long lap he relaxed even more, and produced his best riding of the weekend over the last 3 or 4 laps. It's a rare admission that a sporting sanction can have a silver lining, forcing a reset that yields focus and rhythm. Marquez recovered to 7th on the road and was later promoted to 6th after a separate post-race tire pressure penalty for Luca Marini. Given he started a season-worst 9th on the grid, limiting the weekend damage to a top 6 finish was a tidy turnaround. The recovery highlighted Marquez's race craft and tire management even when not at his qualifying peak. Pace analysis suggested Marquez was about 0.8 s per lap slower than sprint winner Marco Bezzecchi even while serving the penalty, implying the podium might have been out of reach regardless. Marquez himself was modest about Sunday's prospects, penciling in 5th as a realistic target depending on how the medium tire behaved. He said a podium wasn't possible even without the penalty, and expects to fight around 5th to 7th in the Grand Prix. The caution is sensible. Tire behavior at Mandalika proved decisive all weekend and can swing race positions dramatically. What began as a clumsy first lap moment ended as a tactical reset for Marc Márquez. By owning the mistake, taking the punishment and converting the enforced slowdown into composure, the champion salvaged a useful result from a tricky weekend. Whether the long lap will be remembered as penalty or unexpected advantage may depend on how he converts Sunday's opportunities, and how the tires respond under full Grand Prix distance. Pedrosa highlighted Fernández's surge from practice to race, saying the rookie delivered under pressure and converted pace into a tangible reward. For Pedrosa, the result is less a fluke and more a confirmation of rapid development. He was very active in practice and confirmed it in qualifying and the sprint. Fernandez's maiden sprint podium is an important career milestone, and a reminder that new faces are still capable of breaking through the established order. Aprilia's package and Bezzecchi's discipline were singled out as a combined explanation for his strong showing. Pedrosa argued the performance was the product of machine and rider working in harmony. It's a combination of the bike and Marco. He didn't make a mistake all weekend. In a season dominated by Ducati, Aprilia's growing reliability and tire management give it an important Saturday to Sunday threat. Pedrosa sympathized with Bagnaia, painting his slump as both technical and psychological. He noted the jagged pattern of hope and disappointment. A setup works one weekend and fails the next, and warned that the issue might be deeper than surface fixes. They're suffering. Sometimes you plummet again when you think things are sorted. For Ducati, stabilizing Pecco's package remains an urgent priority if they want two riders contributing to development. On the touchy subject of contact, Pedrosa took a referee's eye. Marquez pushed Rins wide while trying to avoid another rider, and while the consequence was harsh for Rins, Pedrosa didn't see malice or clear grounds for a severe sanction. No, not for me. Marc's action didn't seem excessive. His verdict reframes the incident as an unfortunate racing consequence rather than a disciplinary issue, a perspective likely to calm calls for heavy-handed penalties. Pedrosa also pointed to a worrying trend of front-end lows at Mandalika, multiple riders crashing in similar ways, implying a collective problem with grip, setup or track behavior rather than isolated rider error. Many riders felt the same way. It's inexplicable from here. Engineers and riders will need to dig into data. Repeated failure modes demand technical answers, not just caution. Pedrosa's measured analysis steered the conversation away from sensational headlines. By praising emerging talents, diagnosing recurring failures, and refusing to vilify Marquez for aggressive moves, he emphasized context over outrage. At Mandalika, a weekend of breakthroughs, blunders and heated moments, that level-headed view is exactly what the paddock needs to focus on solutions rather than replays. One Grand Prix can erase a crisis, and one good weekend doesn't guarantee another. Bagnaia says Motegi felt like a rebirth, but Mandalika felt like a relapse, same symptoms as Misano and Barcelona. A week ago I was flying, today I'm back to the pre-Misano feeling. I can't push, I move too much, can't brake or accelerate properly. The swing from Motegi to Indonesia has left the rider questioning whether the improvements were transient rather than structural. It's not only lap time that worries Bagnaia, it's the lack of feedback. He repeatedly used the word nothing, no front-end feel, no confidence, no control. That absence, he insists, is what makes pushing impossible. I was not on the bike, I was carried in arms. When a rider can't sense the limit, risk skyrockets and performance collapses. And that's the precise hole Bagnaia describes. Bagnaia oddly rejects a purely technical diagnosis. He says the bike was the same in theory as at Motegi, yet in practice it behaved differently. He hints at something more intangible, perhaps setup sensitivity, tire interaction, or a mental/physical mismatch. I don't think it was a technical problem. It felt like something beyond my control. Ducati and rider are left to untangle a complex mix of hardware, setup and human confidence, none of which submit to easy fixes. Despite the meltdown, Bagnaia refused to quit the race. He rode to the finish, citing past retirements he'd rather avoid repeating. He still hopes for a magical turnaround, but concedes magic isn't a plan. I wanted to bring the bike to the finish line. I hope something magical happens tomorrow. If not, it will be difficult again. That mix of stubbornness and uncertainty shows a rider who refuses to surrender but is running out of obvious options. Pecco Bagnaia's Mandalika weekend underlines how fragile momentum can be in modern MotoGP. Tiny changes, or even perceived changes, can flip confidence and performance overnight. Ducati will need methodical investigation, and Bagnaia needs regained feel, if this Motegi high is to become a turning point rather than an exception. Uccio told media that Ducati asked us for help, and that Bagnaia had tried Morbidelli's older spec GP24 during the Misano test. When DAZN relayed that to Ducati team boss Davide Tardazzi, he sounded surprised. If Uccio says so, I was very surprised by the statement. Tardazzi stressed factories routinely mix parts and riders choose combinations to build confidence. But he did not expect that disclosure to be aired publicly. Paddock rumors suggested Bagnaia's Motegi winning machine included GP24 items, older fork, swing arm, rear lowering system and aero pieces, and that the change restored feel for him. Bagnaia himself has been coy, saying only that some parts we had used in the past helped. Small mechanical or aero differences can change front/rear balance and rider confidence. In Bagnaia's case, those tweaks reportedly unlocked a big performance swing. Tardazzi tried to calm speculation by stressing the GP25's major components, engine, frame, remain common across factory bikes and that riders assemble a mix of parts to suit their preferences. There are different details, but the engine and frame are the same. Every factory rider can put available parts on the bike. The rider makes the mix to gain confidence. He framed the issue as rider-driven setup choices rather than wholesale swapping of fundamentally different machines. VR46 manager Pablo Nieto confirmed the two bikes are different, even if the changes look small. Frame, swing arm, electronics and fairing vary between GP24 and GP25. He explained why VR46 helped Bagnaia at Misano. It was test time and we're a family. It's different. The frame, swing arm and electronics are different. It doesn't seem like it, but it's the little things that change the feeling. Nieto underlined that even marginal components can produce meaningful changes to handling and rider confidence. The episode highlights how close-fought development and clandestine part swaps, or simply cross-testing, fuels speculation when a rider's form suddenly swings. Ducati and VR46 both insist the focus is performance and rider confidence, but public comments by team figures have forced Ducati staff to respond more openly than usual. Expect teams to be more cautious about who speaks publicly, and for paddock ears to keep tracking which parts riders try at private tests. For Bagnaia, the immediate question is whether the setup mix that worked in Motegi can be reproduced consistently on other tracks. A small mechanical tweak can make a big difference for a rider, and a casual confirmation in the paddock can become a headline. Tardazzi's surprise plus Nieto's technical clarification puts the emphasis back on iterative setup work and the thin line between secrecy and useful collaboration inside the Ducati/VR46 family. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!